We're holding Ehven Haezer 34 subsection 3. Just a quick recap of Aleph and Bais is that it's talking about when a person does Kiddushin, you make whether it's himself or through a shliach, through an emissary, either him or the emissary makes a bracha. And some say that somebody else makes the bracha, which we do today. The Misad Kiddushin makes the bracha. Then there's a discussion of the different nuschos for the bracha, different wordings according to different opinions. In either case, after he makes the bracha, then the Misad Kiddushin makes the bracha in this case, and then the groom puts the ring and says Hariyat Mekudash Esli, right? He does Kiddushin, because like we know that in general, unless it's not possible, such as by Shabbos candles, you make the bracha before
doing the thing.
You do before the mitzvah. There is an opinion that says that you do the Kiddushin and then make the bracha, in case in between making the bracha and the Kiddushin she changes her mind. But anyways, in this case, by us, that's not how we do it. Most Pais can agree, and today this is what we do: is you make the bracha first and then the Kiddushin. And the minhag is to do the bracha on a cup of wine, and he first makes Beir Priyagofen on the wine, and then makes this bracha. And if there is no wine or mashka available, then he just makes the bracha by itself not over a cup if it's not available, and it's meaning the not having a cup of wine doesn't hold it back from being a good Kiddushin. Gimel.
So if the guy didn't make a bracha at the time of Kiddushin, so you don't then say the bracha later at the Nisuin part. When he, excuse me. What? I'm sorry, just a good review. I think, what exactly, how do we define the Nisuin? Them coming together under a chuppah? Him giving her the ksuba?
In this case would mean, would mean the actual...
Kiddushin is giving the ring. The Nisuin is him giving her the ksuba.
Right. And Kiddushin, there's different ways of Kiddushin. Nowadays, it's giving the ring. And then the Nisuin is, how's he defining it here? See, because nowadays we do everything together.
Right, that's what's throwing me. I don't like, what are the different stages? Kiddushin is to be mekadosh, so you're giving something of value that betroths the person, and then you say the line, and you're clearly stating your intent and clarifying. So nisuin is them coming together.
I guess it's them. I guess it's
Under the chuppah.
Technically, the chuppah is part of Kiddushin, but I guess it means on when they're coming together under the chuppah.
Right, as we say, chuppah Kiddushin.
That's what it would sound like in this case.
Basically, yeah. I mean, Kiddushin. Yeah. Okay, so I just looked up a quick article by Rav David Brovsky. Kiddushin could be done in one of three ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all Kiddushin. Then comes Nisuin, and there's a difference between, and you see this. There's a nafki min halacha of how a woman is punished if she commits adultery, whether she's an arusa or an asua. If it's just erusin, if it's just Kiddushin, then it's skila. If Nisuin, it's chenek. So, to Raisa, after Nisuin, a person could annul the wife's vows. If he's a kohen, he can become impure for a burial, etc. So, what is Nisuin?
Definition there.
Basically, well, so first of all, he brings up that Kiddushin initiates that legal formal relationship. Nisuin and its halachic ramifications reflect that there's an actual like real intimate relationship here. It's not just a technical legal one.
Right.
So then it gets into Kiddushin Kesef. Okay, Kiddushin. We're learning all about that. Nisuin. So that initiates. So what kind of process creates this new layer? There's two broad approaches in the Rishonim. Some say that an act or situation reflects the most intimate aspects of marriage. So basically, the intimacy that initiates the beginning of Nisuin, as the pasuk says, when a man takes a wife and is intimate with her. So that's why I've always understood that Nisuin is them coming to the chuppah together. That's why there's a whole concept of like the under a chuppah, under this canopy, that it's
Right,
he's taking the wife into this canopy, and then of course the yichud later, and that it'd be long enough that they could be intimate, and then that's also then they are intimate that night, or as soon as possible. Basically, yeah. What's interesting is Rambam Hilchos brings up that Bichlal, if a husband did Kiddushin, made her an Arusa by having relations with her, he's not allowed to be with her again until he brings her into his home. And basically
so
makes her Nisuin, like it says, this is my wife.
And all that, right?
Yeah. And that entrance into privacy that's entry into the chuppah, and that's Nisuin. That's universally referred to as Nisuin. So that
right.
Nisuin is basically saying, so Kiddushin is all the legal consecration of this woman. Nisuin is, okay, I'm taking her as a wife now. I'm taking her
right
to me.
So even though now we do even really the actual, by Chabad anyway, and in other places not, the actual engagement isn't even done until
right. The Erusin we all do day of. But I guess what I want to bring up,
engagement by the L'chaim, by us,
I have
do that.
Right, we call it engaged, but no, but I think it's
even so.
Kiddushin
And Nisuin already for centuries we do together. But once upon a time, they could do Kiddushin, they could do Erusin, and then later is Kiddushin, and then later is Nisuin.
I think to put it into words, I think I have is that our L'chaim, or Vart, as the Welt might calls it, is that's the promise to get married. It's where I'm promising, I'm agreeing to get married. The Kiddushin. So the Kiddushin and the Nisuin are the two stages of Kiddushin. Is like we say, Kadesh is to really separate. The Kiddushin is saying you are no longer to anyone else.
Right, you're no longer available to any other person. Yeah.
So you're exclusive. You are exclusive to me, but more on the fact that you're no available to anyone else. Nisuin is the part where it's you are to me. It's like the difference between Surmeira and Asay Toiv. It's the smile and the Yamina. Like the Kiddushin is small doichek. You're pushing away that now there's nobody else. You're clearing the board. There's nobody else.
Right.
I'm making you exclusive. And the Nisuin is, okay, now come to me. Now I'm taking responsibility for you. Now I'm bringing you in, which is why also I think the giving of Ksuba happens after Kiddushin, because it's also that part of Kiddushin is, okay, I'm agreeing, okay, there is the responsibility comes with that, but the giving of that ksuba is actually more like, okay, now come to my house, now I'm going to buy you food and clothes and everything else and be responsible for you in every way, physically, emotionally.
And of course, again, just to stress that even before that, even after Kiddushin, the Kiddushin is it's a biblical thing, and it's punishable by death. It's not a light thing.
Right. Okay. So I just wanted to
right. So in this case, it would seem
he's
talking about by the chuppah.
So, but basically, yeah. So let's say it as the way, like,
or back then, perhaps
the non-traditional way,
and then later bring her into the. It could be.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let's say the most non-traditional way. Let's say he was Mekadisher with a ring, just a value on the side.
I know by the Sephardic communities. Now, I think in action. While in so many communities they still have this thing of like the Teimanim have, I don't know if they still do, but whatever, but there's a thing of like it's a whole 7-day thing.
Interesting.
So nowadays within those 7 days they still do the I believe the
Kiddushin, it's all same
thing.
They
do everything under the chuppah, the actual and they still have this a 7-day celebration or whatever it is. beforehand, meaning not the Sheva Brachas after, beforehand. So it's
Actually,
repeating all
by
together.
the Sephardi weddings I've been to, they actually do more under the chuppah than we do because they actually fill out the ksuba under the chuppah.
Oh, they fill it up. Wow.
They don't do it at the tish before. They
Right.
do some things at tish before, or makabel and that kind of stuff. But the actual filling out of the ksuba, they fill it out and then they read it. Like
Well,
we read the ksuba, but they actually
Kabbalah is still Tanoim. That's why it's not.
yeah.
It's not
So that's what I'm saying. The chassid tish is just tanoim. It's not like yeah. Anyway, so it's interesting, and they sign it, and it's a whole thing. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I think but Lamaisa, right? They also
but in either case, back in the day anyway.
Let's say So let's say
or back days, let's say Kiddushin would happen on day 3 and the chuppah on day 7.
Also, let's say not so long ago. Let's say Chas v'Shalom. It's in the Holocaust. There are extreme situations where there's no rabbi around to marry, but they want to be together. They want to do it kahalacha. They're not just going to start sleeping together, living in sin. They want to do it kahalacha. So if he gives her the thing of value and he forgets to make the bracha, he's like, I said Hariyat Mikudeshli, but I forgot to say Baruch Hashem.
Right. But I'm saying nowadays how we do it. This whole thing is a little bit because we already established before.
I understand. I'm just saying. Let's say even nowadays,
maybe not according to the Mechaber, but at least according to like the Shmuel Chag's Mechekik, whatever. We established already that since there's an opinion that you can make that the bracha is made after, even though we don't follow that, but b'diavad, if you forgot, you can make it right at. You can make it right after. Which we're
about to get into the Ramah who
says the Nisuin and Kiddushin are right next to each other, so it's maybe less.
We're about to get into a Yeshemrim that says anyway. I'm just saying, according to Mechaber, if there's an extreme situation, there's a guy and a gal, and they're on an island alone together, they get trapped, marooned on a beautiful Hawaiian island like the one behind me. Yeah. They want to do things kahalacha. For whatever reason, they can't get married regularly. They're in a place where they can't. They got to make the bracha by Kiddushin. If he forgets and then he takes her back to the cave,
right,
it's too late, according to Mechaber. But Haggah, jumps in and says, V'yashemrim. That you could say the bracha at Nisuin. And well, actually, it seems to be more not just could, not yesh erim sheyesh like yach sheyachel. It's no the dafka. There are those say no, not by Kiddushin. You're supposed to do it by Nisuin. The Mardechai Perikam the Ksubas. V'chei noyagin afilu kiddush isha mizman Aruch.
Well, I don't know if he means you're supposed to lechatchila or he means that if this happened, then yes, lechatchila go and make the bracha by Nisuin.
Yeah, maybe we'll see it
because I think he's commenting on the mechaber. In other words, he's talking about the im lebeirach, because we know from before that he didn't say anything about. In other words, he seems to agree that you make it before your mekadesh.
That's a good point. Okay, so it's probably
so he must mean im lebeirach, then not yochel levarich, but then mevarchin. Okay, you didn't do it now. Not just you have permission to, but you're supposed to do
interesting.
it now.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'd have to see the Mardechai, and maybe there's other mepharshim that will clarify it, because it's interesting. The way the again, it's whoever translated this in the Sefaria. He seems to understand it the other way, because he puts in brackets in parentheses. Ceremony, meaning that it's not done by Kiddushin. You make the bracha when it's under the chuppah, when you're doing the wedding, not like you brought up in the past how they used to do them as separate things.
Which we do, but that's only because the Kiddushin is under the wedding also, under the chuppah also.
You know what it makes me think of?
But the Ramah, if you look in Aleph, there's no indication that the Ramah would hold that way. Because clearly the Ramah holds that mevarich Eiver Lasi Yosan. You make the bracha before the mitzvah.
Right.
So why would you make it lechatchila? I mean, I think he's talking about lechatchila, but he's talking b'diavad lechatchila, meaning if it happened, you didn't make it. Now lechatchila, go make it now.
Right. It's interesting, but the making the bracha by the Kiddushin, it makes me think of. I'd be curious to look up the history, maybe afterwards, of giving an engagement ring, even in the secular world, because seemingly that would be the Jewish thing to do. Why don't we do it nowadays, at least in Lubavitch or whatever? Because it could be Kiddushin, to give a value, to give a ring, especially something of value. Like that's a Kiddushin, and now we don't do it because whatever. It just made me think like,
Yeah, but the thing is, even then, right? Fine, if you're giving this ring, right? Okay, but you're not supposed to give the ring and say nothing, even though there's a discussion. What if you did? Because remember, now you're entering into
I guess what I'm saying is
now you're entering into
what I'm bringing up is
suffix Kiddushin, because you didn't say, look, if you gave an engagement ring, you said Hayat Mekudesh, it's not an engagement, it's a Kiddushin. So then do a Kiddushin. I think even then, because if you're just giving a ring, right? But you're for engagement, but you're entering into a suffix Kiddushin, that's the problem.
Right. No, I guess what I'm saying Bichlal, to do Kiddushin with a ring is where does the secular world get it from to give something of value at a marriage proposal? Like to the girl. Like why give a ring at a marriage proposal?
Right. What does it have to do with anything? Right.
Why wouldn't you just?
We give in the world they give a ring.
Where at the wedding.
Okay. Well, we know that by the Jews for centuries and centuries have been giving rings. That's
by Kiddushin, by Edison. Yeah. So that's I want to find out what's the secular history of giving a ring.
You have to remember, by the way, giving the ring, it's not a secular thing. It's actually a Christian thing.
Right.
For example, I mean, maybe nowadays by Muslims or whatever, or it bled in from Western
society. That's what I'm saying. Everyone doesn't. Yeah.
But the giving of a ring is not. We see in the Christian things, a lot of the things come from Judaism. So
this is what I'm talking about, the history of the ring. So you're saying it's a Christian thing. I didn't know that. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's not like a pagan sort of thing or whatever. I think now that all the
maybe it does come from a Jewish place.
All the Christians fried out, but they still wear a kippah and a band-aid tallis under the chuppah because that's what you do, right? So they still give a ring. It became symbolic of marriage, meaning that disconnected from. But I think it's a religious thing.
Very interesting. Interesting. I mean, whatever. The only like purely secular concept I could ascribe to it, just off the top of my head, is, you're giving some sort of collateral. It's like a promise, like they have back in the day, the promise ring. Like I'm giving you something of value to show I'm gonna come back and marry you.
I think that part has gotten lost because I think both the engagement ring and the wedding bands and everything. It's a symbol of our love, which Bichlal is part of the Western idea,
like we discussed earlier about
Judaism. There's a little bit of what's love got to do with it, right? I mean, obviously it does have to do with it.
Well, like we discussed earlier, though,
thing than
like we discussed earlier, when it comes to women giving the man a ring. What's that about? It's not a Kiddushin. It's like it's because the ring is a symbol of love, and making sure that if we go and do a chuppah where the couple wants to do this, we have to make sure if a Rav says it's okay, but to make sure that it's clear that the ring that she gives him is not the same thing as the ring he gives her, and most importantly, that when he gives her this ring, it's not like the ring that she's giving him. That the ring he's giving her is being mekadesh, It's not just an expression of my love. Like we said, saying expressions of love is not Kiddushin. There's a different thing of saying will you marry me is not saying I love you. It's
right. Yeah. Well, but by the way, the whole this is really the whole it's a broader concept here, because in other words, the whole thing of marriage isn't saying I love you either.
Right.
Which is funny because people say, oh, that's so medieval or whatever. No, it's actually in other words, the secular mind can't conjure anything greater than love. In Judaism, it's not that it doesn't mean love. It's that a marriage is so much more than that.
Right. The commitment,
not just that. Ad kedei kach that because it's I think we discussed this before, where you have by secular marriages, sometimes the wedding is the pinnacle of their love, right? And a proper marriage is
the love peak, right? And it's all done.
The more 25 years later, and more 30 years later, and more and it's from real situations. It's not a promise to back you up. It's because 10 years I have backed you up, and 25 years I've backed you up, 30 years I've backed you up. It's not it's substance.
Well, to me, That's what I would say. Like maybe it's just the romantic in me. I think it's accurate. I think there is nothing greater than love. It's just what love actually means, and committing to love means even when I don't feel it. It's not just, oh, love is this feel. Love. I think the
Okay,
problem is I think the
you've
problem is
now
a lot of
taken
people
love.
think love.
You've
Hold
now
on. I
taken
think the
love
problem
out of
is,
the secular
hold on. That's what I'm saying. I think a
definition.
lot of people think that love is, and the secular definition is they're defining it as love is a feeling. So when I feel love, and when I'm in love, or when I fell out of love, so there's no more love, and that's wrong. Love is an action. It's not a feeling. Love is a
Well, yeah,
choice. It's a commitment. I am choosing to love you. So that means whether I feel it or not,
right.
but
Well,
I'm still going to
similar to
give this love.
spirituality,
Right.
which spirituality in its right, because I don't like the word spirituality. Why? Because of its Western definition.
Well, so that's
Spirituality
why.
is defined on when I feel spiritual. No, that's not spirituality. In other words, spirituality is like a marriage. It's love to God. So it's not when I feel the love, it's when I'm doing what's
Right.
required of
But that's
love.
that's why I always remember the word of Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. Spirituality is creation, just like Gashmias. The Eibishter created Shemayim, spirituality, as haaretz, and Gashmias. Gashmis and Ruchnis are both briyas of the Eibishter, and spirituality is not God either. God is not spirituality.
Right,
Spirituality is a
100%.
briya, a creation,
No,
just
but
like
you do have even in the Sichos Mamorim, where essentially the word ruchnius, right,
because of
is
Gilui.
referring
It's
is referring
easier.
to, but again, I'm just saying it's like really ruchnius, right, means a love to something higher than myself, as opposed to a love to another person. Same thing.
Right.
Is it? But in Western society, spiritual is all about, like, feeling all ho ho ho. I feel spirit. No, that's you feeling. That's like you feeling love. It's not love, right? Love is 4 a.m. and you're exhausted. But you figure she must be more exhausted than you, and you're sitting there with the baby crying so that she can sleep. That's love.
Or I always love the there's a comic of a couple, and he's very upset, and he's turned away on a bench, and he's holding an umbrella because it's raining, and
Right.
he's holding an umbrella over her, even though clearly they just had a fight, and she's also turning away from him, but she's looking back with like a slight smile on her face, like they're angry, they're actively
Right,
angry at each other.
right, but
I love it. I
right,
think the Ruchnius thing is a very good point, because I think it's the revelation of the commitment that's there. It's the revelation of what's there.
right,
Spirituality, Ruchnius, it is still just a bria. It's not Eibishter itself. It's just the fact that by Ruchnius, it's easier to feel
right.
Eibishter. It's easier to have a gilui of Eibishter in Ruchnius than it is in Gashmias, because by
By
its
the way,
nature, Gashmias.
that's a great example. That cartoon is a great example. Meaning,
Yeah,
I woke up this morning and I'm not feeling Abishter. I'm not like, I wake up this morning, whatever, and let's say God forbid my stomach hurts and this and that and whatever, and I'm not I'm not feeling Abishter. But you know what? I have because of my love, I have a responsibility. And this is the thing: is love and responsibility are highly intertwined. It's about the
right.
responsibility of the love, not the feeling of the love. So the bottom line is, Abishter, but I got to dive to you, and hopefully tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll feel, not that the feeling of the love is bad. Adrab, it's a great thing,
Right.
but today I wake up, I'm not feeling it, and you hear put on the film, say the words. Why? Because I have a marriage with you, Abishter,
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Exactly.
interesting
I
because
think that
that cartoon, it's sort of like that. We're like, well, gotta put it
exactly. I think that perfectly expresses what I was. A thing I should have said before, but like it's something I tell my chasanim that I teach, is something Rabbi Chaikin told us chassan teachers, of a line that he hates. He hates, and this is going to get a little bit adult for a moment, but so warning for any of the kids watching.
I should have put on the disclaimer again this time.
Right,
Some
but
audiences may.
not suitable for children. Um, but he hates the expression "making love." It's false.
Right.
It's not making love. The behaviors of intimacy is not making love. You're not making the love. And the way, and he didn't quite say this. He explained it in other words, but the way I say it is, it's not making love. It's, excuse me. To me, it's, if anything, it's expressing the love that's there. And again, it comes back to more. You're giving each other pleasure, and when I give someone else pleasure, it's usually an expression of this love that I have for them, or this commitment that
Right.
I have to them. That it comes with love and ahava, being giving, have, give. but it's not. I'm not making it, and I'm not. It's not you giving me pleasure. It's not what makes me
Right,
love you.
not
Chas
just that.
v'shalom.
I mean, unfortunately, in the well, not just today, but throughout history, there's plenty situations where not only is there not love involved, but quite the opposite.
Right.
Where
Now,
it's a horrible act of hate and violence and whatever. So
right. Which, listen, that's why they say it's a very fine line.
right,
Passion is passion. And that's true. It can be redirected to other things. But I think the most important thing is it's not, it's the expression of, yeah, which is why I think also it's hard sometimes for people to understand chas v'shalom when there's an unhealthy relationship, when someone's unhealthy and there's abuse going on, whether it's physical,
right.
emotional, whatever. Some people were like, oh, but it must not be abuse because clearly he or she loves me, so it's not abuse, and then they allow it to happen. Now to keep going, and when it's not, a person could love somebody and still abuse them, and I
No,
think that's something that's very hard for people to understand.
I think just in a way, just the other way around. In other words, it's the people that's closest. Well, first of all, it
Yeah,
is the people that's closest that often that people are drawn
right,
to abuse because it's because in the street you're going to do the same thing, you
right,
know.
right,
But furthermore, it's actually the most hurtful because, like, for example, if look, if somebody in the street says what's it called? You're an idiot. You're what's it called? You're ugly. You're faceless,
right,
right? Okay, somebody close to you says that. It's a whole different level of hurt. So
right.
yeah.
All right, continuing back in the Shulchan Aruch.
By the way, none of that was from the Ramah. Disclaimer.
Yeah, this I'll bring it on the side.
Okay.
Anyway, back on the rails. So he said, "Mevarchin Isa b'shas Kiddushin," as it says in the Mordechai. V'chei ne'egen afilu kiddush isha is man aruch, even if there's a long engagement. They betrothed a long time ago.
Right.
Mevarchin birchas erusin tachas a chuppah. You should still say the bracha of erusin under the chuppah. Excuse me. So v'yesh aim the Haezer umekadesh is tachas a chuppah. There are those that say, I guess if it was a long time, that you should re-mikadesher. You're like, I know, take off the ring and let me give it back to you. I need to re-up my Kiddushin over here. Kadesh you Kiddushin smuchin libracha. That the Kiddushin be close to this bracha of Chuppah Kiddushin. I mean, it's the lesson of the bracha.
Interesting. So in that case, it would seem that that this yesh emrim is like you said originally, is not that imloy beirech, but rather that it seems to be saying then that the bracha is always by the nisuin and not by the the kiddushin, meaning it's always under the chuppah basically.
Yeah.
So if you're being mekadesh under the chuppah, you do it before the kiddushin under the chuppah. But if you were mekadesh before, then apparently you don't make the bracha. Then, according to this opinion, you make it specifically under the chuppah. Why? Because if you didn't, then you should make mekadesh her again, so that the kiddushin should be next to the bracha.
Right. So it shows that it implies that it must like that the bracha is always by chuppah.
Or this opinion anyway that Ramos brings.
Or at least this opinion, this yashemim that Rama brings, that the bracha is by chuppah, and that if need, so much so that if need be redo the kiddushin, that it be by the bracha, but the bracha is always by chuppah, which I guess is interesting because the bracha is chuppah
which might explain why we dafka always do kiddushin under the chuppah.
Right. Well, I was going to bring out, why does the bracha put chuppah first? If in order, really, it's kiddushin v'chuppah. Why is the bracha chuppah v'kiddushin? Because the importance, because the main thing is that it's by the chuppah, and then also, okay, you're redoing a kiddushin, fine, but like it's a matter of importance, but it's not. I mean, it sounds nice in our heads because we're used to it that way, chuppah v'kiddushin, whatever. But yeah, like really interesting. Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm just theory I'm throwing out there. Anyway, so
Fine, come on.
Siman Lamed Vav. V'im berach kvar birchas erusin. Kiddushin, Hershenim. So if the bracha of Kiddushin has already been said at the time of the first Kiddushin, right? Yashemim. So then there are those who say the Haezer mevarchin tachas achuppah v'loy haskaras shame. So you don't say the name of Hashem
because you already said the bracha before.
Mishum haroim because other people, because of people who are watching.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Because they're not knowledgeable, and they're gonna see you're doing the Kiddushin without a bracha. So like this, if you do it without Hashem's name, so they realize that no, you're making. He must have made it before.
Okay.
Basically, like
I thought he was saying.
thing.
I thought he was saying, don't say Hashem's name because of onlookers. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you say the bracha because of onlookers, but don't say Hashem's name because
can't say
you
Hashem's
did
name now.
already. Right. So he's saying it's not you. There is no need to say a new bracha. So really, you shouldn't be saying a bracha at all. But because people are watching, you don't want people to think that you go do weddings without brachas Kiddushin. You say the bracha just without Haskasha Shem. Interesting. So Sham Rivash leaning hamikadesh al shliach. And basically, if you see by the Rivash with regards to a shliach,
right? Because how does that work?
I guess
obviously he's not doing the Kiddushin under the chuppah.
So I guess by the shliach, that's what you do. I guess that by a shliach, that's what you do. So he's saying, and so too, it seems to me that makes sense that here also you would do it without Hashem's name, just like by a shliach, and for that same reason. Okay, what do we got?
Right, because you can't make a bracha. Why? Because your shliach already made a bracha when he did the Kiddushin. So what do you do in that case, as the Rivash, I guess, is there, or seems taken the Rashi, but so the chassan now, even though the shliach already made the bracha before when he's Makadisher, would make the bracha. Of course, nowadays this is not a thing. We're not Makadisher, they shliach. But
okay, I think the Chag Mechayik Afilu Kiddush is the first.
Yeah, Afilu Kiddush. Yeah, Afilu Kiddush Isham is Aruch. He said that he makes the bracha under the chuppah specifically, even if the Kiddushin was a long time ago. And meaning, and he did not bench back then by the time of the Kiddushin, because obviously, if he benches at the time of the Kiddushin, like we said, then you already made the bracha.
Right.
So yesh emrim the Haezer in mavarm tach zachupa. Is it there? No, or it's sorry, it is. Oh yeah. No, Beis Shmuel, the Haezer
Mekadesh, yeah.
Mekadesh. So some say he should go back and make, because the Kiddushin should be under the chuppah. He should go back. He should go again and do a Kiddushin under the chuppah.
Redo the Kiddushin right away. Which, by the way, again brings me back to the thing of my sister and brother-in-law, where they redid the Kiddushin part. They didn't make a new bracha, but they redid just the Kiddushin. The ring. Anyway, okay, yeah. So
now, hang on a second. But if you're ready to the Kiddushin, this Kiddushin is just in case. But in this case, it doesn't make a difference, because you anyways would make the bracha with or without the Kiddushin. You would make the bracha under the chuppah. So the fact that you're saying it again doesn't even let's say it's not, doesn't really mean anything, because let's say, all right, for argument's sake, let's say your first Kiddushin was good, but who cares? You're gonna make the Nitzun anyway. So you go and say that. You see him going and saying, you don't lose anything. And you Haezer Mekadesh, so you go again and do the Kiddushin again. Ein Sim Vav C Simin 36 subsection 6. Sham Pasak, there he rules Mishaleach lo yikadish eso achar kiddush shliach, that however, if he had a shliach do the Kiddushin, somebody else an emissary who did the Kiddushin for him, then he does not be Mekadisher again. This is only if he was Mekadisher himself beforehand. Then he goes again and does the Kiddushin. Why shelo yimru the Kiddushin shel shliach lav Kiddushin him? That they shouldn't say that the betrothal through the emissary is not a good Kiddushin. The Khan Kosav, and here he writes the Haezer Mekadesh, that he goes back and betroths. And here he says, he goes back and says, wait, so if he did it, he goes and does it again, and we're not worried about this. We're not worried that they're going to say that the first one wasn't a good Kiddushin. So why is this? It could be Kiddushin al yedei shliach haishin antfei. Maybe when the betrothal was done through an emissary, we're more worried about that. Shayimnu Kiddushin al yedei shliach lav Kiddushin heim. It's not that meaning it's not that they're going to say about this specific Kiddushin, about this specific betrothal, maybe it wasn't good, but maybe they're going to read that as the fact that in general betrothal through an emissary is no good, which is not the case. Again, even though we don't do that today, but if the emissary did the Kiddushin, and now you go and do a Kiddushin, people are going to say that Kiddushin through an emissary is no good. Whereas if you did it yourself, it's not that we're worried about the specific instance not being good, but rather people reading that's the general rule. Azkaras Hashem. Sorry. Let's go to the B'chaz Mecheki. Yesh Eimen de Haezer mevarchen tachas chuppah. And some say that you right. He said you go back and you make the bracha again under the chuppah without Hashem's name. Hainu. B'makim de kuli alma mekadshin tachas chuppah. V'hu reitza gamkin lekadish pam shenis b'prei arayin. Which is interesting because he reads it a whole different way. He doesn't hold like it's a modest ayin thing, so you have to do it without Hashem's name. But it seems that he's saying that being that this is a place where everybody is Mekadesh under a chuppah, that's the usual way it's done.
So this is like this,
and he also wants to do it. Why? Because in other words,
this is giving me vibes of like when someone goes and does what are they, elope? And then they still have the big wedding with a ceremony for the family and friends, right. You know, like really we're already married. We went through the motions just to
or for example, if you look at other things, for example, I don't know, let's say a minhag that we don't have, that some people have. But since the family is used to that minhag, so you know what I'm saying?
Right.
In fact, by my son's wedding, we had a substantial amount to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a friend
we're a Chabad family, and she's from an Iraqi family,
right.
So the Irakim have certain minhagim. So
right.
so we did a lot of.
So that was nice of you, even though technically she's taking on his minhagim. I was gonna say I know a couple, but still.
Right, but not only that. So there comes the question: is how can we incorporate this? For example, let's say there's a certain thing that's said
in a way that we still paskin, right? Like,
right. No, but let's say there's a certain thing that they say that we don't say.
Right.
Okay, so when do we put it where it's not say a hefsek between two things or a lot of these things?
Curious, like did you do besamim under the chuppah?
We don't.
No, I'm saying by shui, you didn't do it.
No.
Okay. But did they even want to, or wasn't one of the things they were thinking?
No, there were certain minhagim that are let's I don't know, call them more pronounced or whatever it is that you know.
Like, did they want him to wear a talis? Like,
no.
Like, what do you have any examples you can think of? Like any of them in Hagim that they wanted?
I'll give you an example of one. This is before the chuppah. Was like before the chuppah. They did a china, which is the henna.
Right. So yeah.
Right. So you know.
So making sure it was early in.
That doesn't interfere with any halachas at all.
Well, so the other thing is making sure that it doesn't interfere with.
We happen not to do so.
Well, so hold on. So one thing though is mikvah. Got to make sure that it's done in a way that it won't interfere with being I'll give you an example. We're going to mikvah.
I'll give you an example.
So I was gonna say I know somebody who did specifically henna. I was gonna say it was the opposite situation where he is from a Sephardi family, but like they were traditional, and then he became a Lubavitcher. It's like kind of Baal Tshuva or whatever, like as a teenager. And
right. So that's
he
even
wanted
more
to do
because his minhagim really.
And now it is technically his minhagim, but he took on Lubavitch minhagim bichlal. But there are certain Sephardi minhagim that he still like incorporates in respecting his family, and technically he is Sephardi background. So it's like, what minhagim do we incorporate? And I remember, so the family, they did a whole henna for her. And I remember at the time it was I don't remember how they did it, but I remember it was a shaila to make sure that the henna didn't cause problems with going to mikvah, making sure there's no chatzitza, like it had to be done enough in advance or something.
So which is I think in general is not really a problem, but in this case the daf also did it far enough in advance
Right. So it's like
It doesn't stay on for that long.
Right.
Doesn't
So
stay on for that long.
it's keeping.
Right. But I'll give you an example. For example, by them, which is not just by them, really by the Welt also, that the father and mother walk the chassan, and the father and mother walk the collar, rather than the father and the father and the mother and the mother.
Right.
Okay, but it's not only by Svardim, by the way. That's in
It's
the
a
Welt
lot of
also.
people. A lot of
Right. So fine. There's no halachic. So, but it's just an interesting thing when it comes, like, for example, fine. Let's say for example that where he comes from, you do Kiddushin first.
Right.
So you do Kiddushin. Okay, now the chasna is by
where the kala is from.
Is by her vuz kehila, right? By her Ashkenazi kehila, right? And by them they do the Kiddushin under the chuppah. So so her family's requesting and saying, listen, but what do you mean not gonna do Kiddushin? Like the whole kehillah is gonna be strange, like the whole kehillah. So he says, okay, Rav, what do? I want to do Kiddushin under the kehillah, so her family should be happy because that's how they're used to. And what do I do? He says, so you can says the Chagin Mechikik that in a place where that's how they do it, and he wants to also do it because of this, the onlookers, meaning he's translating this a whole different way. Not that because the onlookers are going to say, wait, what? He didn't make a bracha,
right?
Or whatever. But meaning, so you have to do it. So it's not like a Morris Ayin thing. It's that he has permission. So make the bracha. Just do it without shame, without the Askaras Hashem. And this way, everybody's happy. Yeah. Even though he already made the bracha, let's say based on his minhag, how they do it, they already made the bracha with the Shem Hashem. So you can make it again, and you just do it without Shem Hashem, and it's fine. So it's almost like he brings it almost like it's an eitzah rather than something that you should do. You can do it. Mashma aval malchus mazkirin.
So you still say Melech Olam. It's not just Baruch Ata Kiddushin. It's Baruch Ata Melech Olam. Maybe like Kenu Melech Olam.
Kenu, maybe. I wonder if that, because Malchus. Think about it. What's Shem Malchus? Elikim is Shem Malchus.
Right. I'm wondering. Yeah, if it's Melech Olam or just
I wonder if
it
says like what's it called? It's why, because he dafka says Hashem, which Hashem the name.
Well, especially continue on.
It says, wait, see, you have to know Hasidus in order to understand the Shulchan Aruch.
Mamish. Amrin and Tayv levarich beloy Shem umalchus, meaning
right that you don't say not Hashem. What's Hashem? Hashem equals Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's what Hashem is. Even though we pronounce it with Adnos, but it's very interesting. So this is a little Hasidic thing you have to understand. You have to understand that Hashem, the name, means the Shem Meferosh, right? Means the
Malchus is that he's
ineffable name. You can't f it up, and Shem Malchus is, we know that Shem Elokim is Malchus Vatzilus is the Shem Malchus.
So basically, he's saying Baruch Ata Melech Olam Asher Kisharm Seis Vitzivanu Al Rayis Vasalanu Sarusis Vitalanu Sarusis Lanu Ayidei Chubav Kiddushin Baruch Ata Mekadesh Am Yisrael Al Yidei Chubav Kiddushin.
Yeah.
So you're just dropping Hashem and Hashem Elokeinu and then Hashem.
And in other places it says also with not with Avaya and not Elokeinu. So you would say Baruch Ata Melech Olam. You wouldn't say Baruch Ata Elokeinu Melech Olam.
Right. So some would say Baruch Ata Elokeinu Melech Olam
with the name or without the name.
Right. What's interesting, yeah, like I think most modern, like I think most places that say Bli Shem Amal. What's interesting, it doesn't just say Bli Hashem. It says Bli Shem Amalchus.
But then
like saying like the Alter Rebbe Shulchan.
Actually, you do see this. You do see this, right? I'll tell you where you see it. You see it where in Tfilas HaDerech. Not only you say Malchus, you say Shem, but you're just not Chesem b'Shem. Right? Yehi Ratzain L'Fonecha, Hashem Elokeinu Velik, right?
Right. Hashem Elokeinu Velik, I was saying, no?
Yeah, should say L'Cheinu V'chol V'chol, right?
And at the end, Baruch Ata Hashem.
Baruch Ata Shem Atfila. if it's not the first day on right.
Right.
So I guess you do see where it's split off like that. Where
Well, there's one of the
Godas Hashem just means mamish just as Godas Hashem, and even then it only means in the chasima.
Right. Well, the chasima because that's the part of the bracha. Yiratzin is
right, just like
Yiratzin Hashem
bracha. Okay, fine. There's no bracha. Yeah.
Making a request versus saying a bracha. Bracha is different.
Or in this case, you're saying Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu.
Right. Well, let's see the Beis Shmuel. I think he explicitly says it out.
So anyway, so that's the So that is the Chalks Mechekik. Beis Shmuel. Beloy Haskoras Hashem. Berivash Isa. Shelo Yemar Baruch Atah Hashem. Ella Yemar Baruch Atah
Hashem.
Hashem. Meaning you shouldn't say.
You don't say Baruch Atah.
It's funny how he puts the hey and he says Hashem. Meaning you don't say Baruch Atah Adoi. Rather you say Baruch Atah, but you don't skip it like you do like Baruch Atah Shemet Tefillah. You'd say Baruch Atah Hashem.
Right.
Ubechalkes mechekik mashma kosav mashma aval malchus maskirim ubeduchta achrisa amrinon. Toiv levarich beloy shem malchus. So he brings also the chalks mechekik. That some say Elokeinu, however you say. So you would say Baruch Atah Hashem, and then you would say Elokeinu the right way. And others say that you don't. In either case, we don't do either of those because we are Mekadosh on the Chuppah. So this is more so in theory, although it could come in play if, for example, a mistake was made or somebody, or like we said, it could be there's people out there who have a different minhag. They do Kiddushin before, and then what do you do?
Right.
Now the Gej family is upset that you don't have Sinai. You have to know to tell them to say Hashem or say Hashem Elokeinu.
Well, so another component it could be is, you have people who, let's say they're Baalei Tshuva, who get remarried. If there's a shaila on let's say their first wedding, it's not clear that the Kiddushin was done without kosher edim or whatnot.
Right.
Let's say they got married. They got married with a Jewish wedding, but they weren't from. And you don't know, was the chuppah a kosher chuppah? It's not clear that it was like something apikorsis, like another movement of Jews that, is clear apikorsis. So you don't know. Maybe the Kiddushin was kosher.
Which means Safek bracha is lahakil. If you have a doubt about a bracha, don't make the bracha. So here, very good. So that's
you can't just redo the Kiddushin. If the Kiddushin was a real Kiddushin, you can't just redo it.
Right.
So I think that would be like the most common example of somebody that's shaykh today.
Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say they had like basically a from or even they had a reform wedding, but he put the ring on her and said, I'm
just saying. Let's say they made the bracha.
Now,
it was good reform.
The ksuba was written by not a kosher rav. So
right.
The ksuba is not good, might not be good, whatever it is. You have to redo it.
Well, let's say there were kosher edim.
In general, by weddings, you see, and all these things. One of the ongoing string through all this is that essentially in all these things you have to be machmir both ways. As far as you're being able to go with somebody else, right? It might be a good kiddushin.
Right.
As far as it being a good kiddushin, practically, no, you have to redo it still.
Right, we're still redoing your
suffix because the suffix works both ways. The suffix forbids her to somebody else, but doesn't allow her to him. So very good. But and nowadays, Taka, these things are real.
Also, not just with Baalei Tshuva, but also with the gear. Let's say the guy does a gear by a bezdin that, let's say again, it doesn't have to be that it was conservative or reform. It could even be one of these Orthodox. But let's say we're like, I don't know if I would consider that a halachic gear, so they redo the gear, which means they'd have to redo their wedding because they got married after their other conversion. I know couples like that who they got, they converted. There's a local here in Pittsburgh. I remember him telling me about how actually he used to, before he got married, he used to go around he used to go around collecting recycling cans, and so part of that was smashing down with his feet the recycling cans so they'd be so flat. Yeah. It was like a job he had. He got very good at it, smashing it to nothing. Which then, so he's told me by his first wedding, because of his gear wasn't the kosher gear, so he got married a second. He had a proper wedding a second time. By the first one though, he smashed the cup till it was like the whole thing was just powder. it was like nothing. And his friend who worked with him at the time was like, "Oh, this guy knows how to step on a cup." Something. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So Dalit.
Yeah. So, Daled, yeah. I
Birchas
was just going to say, by the
Edison.
way,
Yeah.
that we have to remember also nowadays. I think generally speaking, we have more defined religious. Like for example, shuls have come to affiliate with either the OU or with Chabad
Right.
or with conservative or with Reform. Back in the day, there was just shuls, and they were just
Well, I was going to say also.
individual shuls, and they were somewhere in between and it could be the rabbi was actually completely Shemer Shabbos and Kashrus, but the shul wasn't, and they had no
Right.
mechitza, but he was complete. So it's a very confusing. What do you consider Orthodox or not,
I was.
and how much did this guy really know? And who was his smicha by? Well, you don't know anymore
Right.
because the guy he passed away years ago. His kids maybe answer from. They don't know have his smicha papers. They don't whatever. There's a
So
lot
two
of these
points.
things.
2 points on that. Number one is if you look at the history of the Pittsburgh synagogues, you'll see that's exactly what happened. Road of Shalom, when they decided to sign, it's a whole protected building because it's part of history of Reform Judaism. But when that happened, they split off. There was those who were like, this isn't okay. We want traditional proper Judaism. So they split off and founded which shul? Tree of Life.
Right.
And it happened again when Tree of Life was decided they want to be associated with this new movement of conservative and whatever. Again, it split off, and like
By
it kept
the way,
happening,
it
like
wasn't even
amoebas, just splitting.
often it wasn't even that so much that they decided. It was these shuls as those neighborhoods were shrinking, right? They were getting less and less people, and they had to merge with other shuls. So now the question became, well, which shuls do we merge with? And then this one is Enlightenment, and this one is
Right,
conservative, and this one is modern Orthodox or whatever. And by the way,
right, right.
there was big wars on these things. So there was these
Yeah, yeah.
things where people got very steamed. I heard a lot of like first hand accounts
I'm
from
just saying.
people who were
So
involved
this,
in the 50s and 60s and whatever
right,
with different mergers of shuls. And there was people were so, because what do you mean? But we're Ortho, and these people, but they're in middle somewhere. So they said, well, we have
right,
to merge. Well, we don't want to merge with I don't know, with the Pittsburgh Rebbe's shul.
right,
That's too crazy for us. So there was this whole thing of where do they go and how far do they go and which thing. But a lot of them were by necessity when they were merging, and then they had to decide what they're gonna align themselves with.
right, right. So the history went many different ways. The other point I was going to say was also, even when there were delineated groups, there weren't necessarily like they didn't necessarily have all their own standards and their own things. For example, in many places, conservative back in the day in the 50s, when it came to gear, they used to just go to Orthodox, but they didn't. They didn't
Yeah.
have their own base dins, and where they did it themselves. A lot of conservative rabbis, a lot of rabbis of conservative shuls, weren't themselves conservative, like you said. They were Orthodox, and they just it pays well, like etc.
Or you just rephrase that. It pays.
I've seen it. I just saw somebody who I just saw on Facebook. Someone I'm friends with on Facebook just became the director of a preschool at the Reform preschool in San Francisco, and it's like
Yeah.
they used to be. They might still be Orthodox. I don't know, but they used to be like from. They went to Mayinot Yeshiva, and they were a mashgiach for us. And it's just like, wait, what? And locally here in Pittsburgh, the director of one of the big Reform preschools was someone who used to work in the administration of yeshiva schools, and is a from girl from family, but it pays well or whatever. So
No,
it's not. It
by
wasn't
the way,
always so clear. And what I'm saying is,
you could have that
to the
here
point
too
of, I
with
know
teachers.
personally,
Let's say a teacher
lahalacha
offered a job
people.
at Beth Shalom. Do you take it or not? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's what I'm just saying. I know people personally, people who lahalacha. Yeah, I know a friend of mine I mentioned before. His grandmother was a whole thing. She was conservative. She converted, but it wasn't so clear who did the gear. So it was a suffix. We ended up doing a suffix gear without Hashem's name. I think it was also Shem Umalchus, but anyway, but yeah, that's exactly true. Sometimes it's not, especially with these things when it comes to Gior and Kiddushin. We're seeing this a little bit. In fact, Kiddushin seems to be more clear than Gior, because when it comes down to it, Kiddushin, we have clearly delineated these are the steps it takes to be Mekadosh somebody. By Gior, I was having this discussion with my mother-in-law, and I'm not an expert in Gior yet, but from the little
Working
that I
on it.
know,
Working on it.
it's the same thing as like when I hire a mashgiach. what's the qualifications? Or someone who is supposed to be your Shemer Torah mitzvahs. I don't know that the Yerushalayim Shemer Torah mitzvahs. How do I know that? Okay, so there's certain things we usually have as the list, which is, kashrus, Shabbos, tefillin. But technically, if the guy does those three, but hold on, if the guy does those three things, and then he goes and Farhesi and he publicly says, "But shatnez is ridiculous. I'm going to wear shatnez clothes." I'm not going to hire him as a mashgiach because he's rejecting Yiddishkeit. He can't be a 6'12" Jew. At the same time, same thing with gear. Technically, he's a human being. He might not keep everything exactly, but if bichlal he accepts this is all true and this is Yiddishkeit, and I recognize that I should be doing such a thing, it could still be a kosher gear, technically. Now, usually a bezdin says, no, we got to see that you're keeping these things. But technically, there is a shaila of
even when they see they're keeping it. In other words, a ger, even who's learned which is actually funny because a lot of times gerim know a lot of things more than a born and raised Jew does, because they have to really learn everything and they won't convert themselves. But still, there's if you look at the expanse of halacha, there's no way they're going to be doing in fact, you look at the expanse of halacha, there's no way I'm going to do everything right.
I'm always doing apparently I've never kept Shabbos because I'm always doing this thing. Now I just learned a new halacha. Now I can maybe get a step closer to keeping Shabbos.
So it does have to do to a degree with intent also, but in fact, in a way, in some ways, the intent is even more. The fact that if he would know, then he would do it.
That's exactly my point, is that when it comes to gear, sometimes people are like, oh, well, they didn't keep things. So that's not quite how that works. Right. It's actually what really makes a gear is accepting, like Avram Avinu saying, I accept to be a Jew.
Right.
Now, all these other behaviors, these activities that we do, is just to show we want you to prove it to us that you really took on these things.
This is the same holds true with Bali Tshuva. Now, the difference being, the reason the angle is different is because the Baal Tshuva is Jewish already. So, right. In other words, he's already chayiv in all these things.
So there's nothing changing.
And therefore, in the case of a Baal Tshuva, he begins to take on as he learns it and is able to, as opposed to, no, first you learn it because the Baal Tshuva, you're Jewish already. That's right. Whereas by a ger, no, why don't we learn it first? Learn how to basically be a Jew at least, as well as we have to clarify your intentions, where the Baal Tshuva, his intentions actually don't mean anything. If you put on tefillin, I don't care what your intentions are. You're a Jew and you're putting on tefillin, is good. You know what I mean? I say, whoa, time out. What's your intentions in putting? No, you're Jewish already. Where's the ger? So you wait and say, first of all, you got to clarify his intentions, and B, why take on Torah and mitzvahs until you at least basically know how to do it. About Tshuva, listen, all you know is tefillin, and you and we'll help you along with Shabbos, and we'll tell you when not the lights, don't touch your light, right? Okay.
Well, yeah, I will say sometimes that's the hardest learning curve, is for Gerim who are learning and they see in the community people doing things and like, wait, didn't I learn? And you have to tell them, yeah, but people are people and they're making a mistake. It doesn't mean that you should then become a Yid and be okay. I can be lax in that area. Chas v'shalom. No, right. You gotta and it's a hard thing, because it's like, well, that's not fair. I have to be a better Jew than people. Are like, why? Once I'm a Yid, I'm a Yid. What is this? And it's like, yeah, it's difficult, and it's something we've seen locally. People who are studying and working to be Yidden, and they ask questions of why did someone, and we got to and sometimes they don't ask questions, and we feel the need to tap them on the shoulder, just so you know what you're seeing here.
Which is tough, because without making it right, you have to.
I don't want to say lashon hara, but you need to know that this is not right. That them doing this, let's say without a mechitza or whatever, this is not right. This is not halachic Judaism. They're difficult. They're struggling, and I think it's an important lesson for everyone.
But let's not open up the mechitza kind of worms.
Right. No, I think also I have a nephew, just turned 12 and things. Bar mitzvah's coming up. It's one of the things that's so important. Forget learning how to lane. These kids have to learn basic halachas, because now they're going to be responsible for them also. But it's something that's such an important lesson, especially for someone at that age, to know. Now you're going to go into Yiddishkeit. This is your relationship. This is your Eibishter. No one else is gonna. We're all there to help you, but really, this is between you and the Eibishter.
This is right.
But you should know.
Now it's not us. It's still us trying to teach you, but at this point, it's you. It's
on you. We're here to help you, but it's on you to do this. But you should know, even for when you fail, that's a part of it. The part of life is you try, and the important thing is that you're trying your best. You recognize this is MS. I'm trying my best. Will I fail? Almost definitely, but that doesn't matter. It's not that, I dropped that once, and now
which by the way, it's an amazing thing too. It's an amazing concept because I remember fully was when he would lane by Shirley, he was 14, and not only lane, but there was this group that would they had all kinds of questions about tzitzis, about this and that, and he would like. And I remember somebody telling me, he goes, how old is he? And I said, he's 40, he's almost 15. And he goes, this is like a ridiculous. He goes, a 14-year-old is usually a baby, and here's like this little rabbi like darshaning and what do you call it?
Right.
It's funny. A good story with that. There's one guy who came. This guy told me. He said he asked fully, or as this guy would call him Fury, because he couldn't get the name quite right. We call him Fury, but he what's it called? He said that last week I asked Fury what do you call it? He was like almost like giving him a little bit stachy, like what's it called? Like with the tzitzis and all, what's it called? So he told him what you were. He goes, so he told him what Fury, you were the tzitzis in the shower too. Right, so fully told him when he goes, do you go swimming? And he said, yeah. He goes, so when you go into the water, do you breathe too? So he goes, no, I hold my breath, so I shouldn't. What do you call it? So they said, no, but you have to breathe. Why don't you breathe under the water? He goes, oh, so fully said, so when I go in the shower, I hold my breath. I have to go without my tits. Anyway, so the guy showed me. He goes, right. So the guy goes, look. The guy was wearing tzitzis. I don't know if he wore it every day or whatever it is, but at least on Shabbos when he came to shul, he started from that. He started anyway because a 13, 14-year-old in the world that they're still a little kid. They're a meshugane, That's when they're getting into a lot of trouble. 13, 14 years old when you got to teach them, buddy. You're the Ebersters now. And not just that. It's your connection. It's not the
yeah.
Anyway, weiter. Dalit Birchas.
At the outset, you need to make sure you have a minyan to make Birchas Erusin.
Right.
Which is another reason why maybe not to do it by Kiddushin, because Kiddushin or whatever, it's not necessarily, you could do it more casually, but chuppah, okay, you have a crowd, you have a thing.
Which maybe is also another, maybe that is another reason to do Kiddushin, that because it's more this than with even though Kiddushin, technically, when you do Kiddushin, even not in the chuppah, you still have to have two witnesses to it.
Right.
Which we still do today. We have two. What do they say? You guys are the witnesses to exclusion of all others. There's a bunch of people there. Who's the witnesses? So especially you two are the ones witnessing it. Is this? You see this ring? Is it the value of a pruta, etc., etc.
Right. Exactly.
And then they tell the photographers, get out of the way, because these two people, if
they need to see it.
Shot, not only that, you see the smart Rabbanim, what they do is they tell the photographer, hang on a second, make sure they see it, and then we could do the for the wedding shots or whatever. The ones that we make sure they've seen it. But now he can again what's it called race, it's for the pictures.
Yeah, I think that's Siman Chav Dalet in the fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch is the Okay, yeah. I'll stand here. Now you get in here. You get in here.
Horatz minhag hafotographim. Ain't lases kain.
Exactly. All right. So
says so in the first place, ideally, the way to do it is with 10. Kelemar milvad shnei edi kiddushin. Tzorich eid shmei na'anosh. Meaning. So he's clever, meaning you need 10 altogether. Two of them, you don't need 10 plus the two witnesses, but you have the two designated witnesses, and in addition, you need 8 people for a minyan total.
But for some reason, they're not included.
I've craved even relatives, meaning
the minyan is just a minyan. It's not like the Eidim, right? But what's interesting, they're not including the chassan.
Right. But the other 8 could be his brothers, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. 8 Jews that can be counted for a minyan.
What about the chassan?
Should be there. That's unclear. He doesn't say that here.
Let's see if Shmuel.
He doesn't say even the chassan himself.
Yeah, let's see if Shmuel says it.
Yeah, let's see what he says over here. Says the Shmuel in ikuv. If there's not 10, it doesn't hold back. You can still, and for example, like even though it's interesting because we know that the Rebbe, right, the Rebbe's father, would
Right, but
make
that went and risked his.
would risk his life to do, and he would have a chuppah in his house with him, and he actually did it. I believe not only did he do it, I'm gonna say his never. He made sure to have witnesses there. I mean, to have witnesses and to have 10. He made sure to have 10.
To have a minion, yeah.
Yeah, so he actually risked his life and their lives to have 10. So even though it says there's no ikuv, it's technically good, but obviously having the 10 is a very important thing. It's not just
what's interesting about that story is I remember hearing someone say it once with the implication that yes, the guy came up and he was part of the minion. The guy who it was known, he was the spy. He was the guy who was always telling the Yevsekti everything. And that's what actually caused Rebbe Levi to get imprisoned and sent to to be sent to Almaty and everything. That it wasn't just a risk, but it actually did cause him to, which cost him his life in the end. The guy did end up ratting him out, not right away, but he did end up ratting him out, and then he got. I remember someone saying that it was mamash Mesiras Nefesh. It wasn't just a risk; it actually did go through. The guy followed through, but that the Rebbe Levi felt it was still worth it.
right.
Which is, it just makes it so crazy.
Because, well, I mean, it's like we spoke about it a long time ago when we were in Kiddushin when we first were starting it. Is the idea that Kiddushin it's besides for the sort of the crucial element of marriage itself and the sanctity, the unbelievable sanctity of marriage itself. We have to remember there's additional things. This is that we're talking about not just between me and you. We're talking about the building of a family for generations. Yeah. This is the children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, etc., are all affected by the sanctity of our marriage.
But I'll say there are a lot of Rabbanim and Lubavitch Rabbanim who paskin today, and there are certain Rabbanim who they told us this actually part of the Chassan teacher class. That discourage shluchim from pushing these kiddushin, like to make these weddings, and in fact, in the words of one Rav, was like these a lot of shluchim will think it's some mitzvah to make sure that people get married kalacha, and it's actually a problem. And the reasoning is because a lot of these couples, you're pushing them to have a chuppah, but then they're not going to get a get, and then you're causing a bigger issue of mamzer.
Not just so that, basically, not just the Kiddushin when they're all lovey-dovey. Oh, what a beautiful thing! Let's do Kiddushin. A get when they hate each other's guts.
It's not going to happen.
Now go convince them to make.
So that's what. So a lot of them will tell shluchim, don't do it. Do not push people into. If they come to you, fine, but don't try to convince somebody to get married kalacha, because it could cause bigger issues later, unless whatever. Okay, they're becoming fine, but it's just so interesting to me that, and I'd love to speak to maybe some more Rabbanim about that, how to reconcile with this thing of Rebbe Levi, who seemingly pushes so far, but maybe that's the point. Maybe he knew this is a kosher family.
No, with Rebbe Levi, he wasn't just randomly pushing. These were people, in other words, this was
getting married anyway. That's what I'm saying. They were getting married.
And by the way, remember in his times, people were bichlal more, I guess, traditional. This, not the other.
They were going to get a get.
I don't think divorce was as rampant.
Well, no, I was going to say they're more traditional, meaning if they would get a divorce, they would get it with a get, even if they weren't.
Right. I hate to tell you, but it was back then. It was a lot more common for young people to become an almana than a grusha. So
right.
Unfortunately, those are the times.
Right. Okay. Anyway, so
also, by the way, we were talking about very often. You're talking about not just like people off the street. You're talking about people who were to whatever degree they could secretly trying to keep Yiddishkeit.
Right. They were from Yidden, as much as
but now at the same time they're from Yidden, but they're afraid to get married because
Right. So anyway, so he says even if he doesn't have a minion, but ein ikuv avo.
Yeah. Ein ikuv, so it doesn't hold back. Avo birchas nisuin ma'akiv.
So birchas Kiddushin, it does hold back.
Well, it says, meaning birchas erusin, right? Which means asalonu sarusais, etc. That you would still say.
Right. So basically,
I assume here he's talking about the Sheva brachas.
Yeah.
Meaning, which we know, Sheva brachas you don't say without a minion.
Right. So then there you go. There it is.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. But ayin base
The ayin base Yosef
Yosef
Sim base Mashikosu b'Shem Rashba. See base Yosef Simin 62. What he writes in the name of the Rashba. The ayin piski Mahariri Simin Kuv Mem v'ayin b'Mordechai.
Kuv Mem or Kuv Aleph?
Well,
Kuv Mem or Kuv Aleph?
Simin Kuv Mem. I have here.
Kuv Mem. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe mine's a typo. I don't know. But here's pretty clearly Kuv Mem.
Okay.
The ayin b'Mordechai and see heavy plukta. They brought a disagreement. Im amrinon b'seudas erusin simcha b'ma'inei. Would you say, right? So let's say you don't say. In other words, now we're talking about Sheva brachas, right?
Right, Berachas Nesuin.
By Sheva brachas, would you say? So we know if you don't have a minion, you don't say Sheva brachas. Do you still say, right? But let's say you have three. For a zimun, you only need three. So what do you do usually when you have 10?
Right.
You say Baruch Elokeinu because you have 10. So you say Baruch Elokeinu. Sheha simcha b'ma'inei. Shecham mishalei. So the question is, if you have three, obviously you wouldn't say Elokeinu, and you wouldn't say Sheva brachas. The question is, would you say Baruch Sheh simcha b'ma'inei shecham mishalei?
Still a wedding feast, right? Interesting.
Ayin Bach, and see the Bach for a
conclusion.
For more on that topic.
Right.
Asara, you need 10. Hainu le'etus Kiddushin tzarich liyishnayim. So meaning for the witnessing of the Kiddushin, you need 2. Ulivracha asara. And for the brachas nisuin, you need 10.
What's he what's his point?
Right, that's interesting. What as opposed to what? He could be talking about bichlal, like meaning what if the Kiddushin is not even done under the. Remember, we just said before that according to these opinions that if you say the Kiddushin, if you do the Kiddushin before, you still make the bracha of the Kiddushin under the chuppah. So let's say in that scenario, fine. So you need 2 for the Kiddushin. Now under the chuppah you need 10.
Right. By the way, just I was looking up trying to see because I was curious what taka, like how do we paskin today? Like how do we paskin with simcha b'ma'inei? So I quickly Googled. I didn't find it yet, but I did find with regards to the chasen, if you can count in the minyan, maybe they didn't mention it because it's a Beferish Gemara, Masechet Megillah in the Mishnah. It says that they need a minyan. The Gemara says the chasen is one of the 10. And Bechlal, it comes from, the whole thing comes from Bayaz, excuse me, in Rus. He said that we need a minyan basically for this. But yeah, so the chasen counts. Chasen counts.
Is that this, and that's by Sheva brachas as well as Birchas Kiddushin?
Well, so all that I'm just saying is just stam that the Bechlal you need a minyan.
The question is he included though by Birchas Erusin, by She'asalanu Sarus, by that bracha? Can he be included also?
So what's interesting is I think we're going to get into this later because then this person's article writes basically from Haezer Hatzvi-Bais Daled. I think so. We're going to get into this later in Hatzvi-Bais. It says that a minyan is not required to say Asher Bara, the bracha of Asher Bara, and according to the Ramah, which is added to all the groom's meals according to the Shulchan Aruch, and to all of his meals that are not just with family, that have a zimun according to the Ramah. And that you'd actually need a second cup for that one extra bracha, according to the Ramah. So we're going to see the Hilchos of Sheva brachas later,
which is where he's pointing at over here. That's where the Shmuel points us to.
Now hold on. So here he brings up. I'll note that basically the special zimun she'asimcha b'ma'inai is recited at any meal from the time they begin preparing for the wedding until 30 days after the wedding. Also at any meal made specifically to celebrate the marriage within the first year of marriage. This is all Shulchan Aruch, basically in Hatzvi-Bais Yud Gimel. It's not connected to Sheva brachas at all. It's Bechlal the whole month of marriage, like of the wedding. But basically, the long-standing custom. That being said, is that the minhag is to only say it during the first 7 days for a first marriage and the first 3 days of a second marriage. So he seems to be implying that we paskin that we say it anyway without a minion.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Well, I think we'll get into that basically when we get to Hatzvi-Bais.
Yeah, once we're on the topic of Shasimcha B'meinei, it's just I think worthwhile to bring up an interesting thing that many people don't realize is that by Sheva Brachas, even if it's somebody's house, I mean, first of all, Bichlal, by even by Shabbos meals, when it's other than family, and meaning other than direct family, people say, oh, it's all family. No, because there's brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and their brother-in-law and their sister-in-law. Right? There's a famous thing. There was, I forget what it was, but Rabbi Meir Itkin and Beryl Eunuch, right, who were Michotanim, right? So when they came, I think, to Pittsburgh for something, I forget what it was, and they're both standing in the hallway, not coming in. It was something in shul, something, I don't know. But it was like a family thing. It wasn't right. It was a family thing.
Right.
And they were standing in the hallway, and they said, why didn't you come in? They said, there's no mechitza. So he said, but it's family. He said, yeah, but there's our family and our family.
Right.
That's not the same family.
The in-laws and
the men and women and boys and girls from this family and that family are not the same.
Let's put it this way: could any of those girls sit on my lap? No,
right.
They're not my daughter. They're not my
right.
So they're not even my sister.
Right. So anyway, it's the same thing. Also, the people about by Sheva Brachas. Oh, it's family and two words. It's not only family; it's family and friends. By a Sheva, first of all, by a Shabbos table, when it's family, it's family. When it's not mamish family, there's also
it's
important to have
there's mechitza and even just
ways, either men on one side, women on the other side.
Yeah, I was gonna say even just to have separate seating, just to have the guys on one side, the ladies on this, or something like.
And to the point, ad kedei kach that many opinions hold that if it's not separated, that by Sheva Brachas you're not allowed to say Shasimcha B'meinei. And actually you see this even more by, which is why it's very important the idea of mechitzas by chasnas, because what happens is by the, you'll see by the end of the chasna, it's already by the end of the chasna, most of the people have left. It's just family, but it's not just family. It's just family and some of his close friends and some of her close friends, and now they're going to do, when you do Sheva Brachas, they're all sitting there. So it's very important. First of all, bichlal, it's important to keep separated. But especially when listen, if not, and remember also, we're talking about people who've been having l'chaim, so it's even more of an issue. But especially people should realize that at least when they make the Sheva Brachas, right? So tell everybody, okay, guys, we're gonna do Sheva Brachas. I'll do, even the truth is, ideally, besides for the color, they shouldn't be, they should be by the other side mechitza, whatever, we're fine. But even if not, at least they shouldn't be what's it called? At least put that. All the women on that side, all the men over here. Now we can make Sheva Brachas, because by chasnas, remember, Sheva Brachas comes after hours of festivity, but it's very important by a Sheva Brachas that there's separation in this respect, as well as people when they do it. Oh, we're doing it at home. It's a very funny thing, because somebody said what, and I remember I told somebody, said, but by a Shabbos table, I said, well, you should, but especially by Shabbos, more so than even a Shabbos table, because of it creates a problem with Shasimcha B'meinei, and anyhow, that's my 2 cents from the who was it who saw me on? I was putting the mechitzas up on by Tisha B'av, right? Because the women, whatever, for whatever reason,
I was at
the memo didn't make it to the custodians, right? So I was putting the mechitzas up, and somebody laughed. Somebody poked me and laughed. He goes, the mechitza sheriff.
Yeah.
Which by the way, that wasn't me. That's the actual setup. That's the actual setup that everybody agrees was what's it called? But anywho. What's our next thing, Bichlal? Because I don't know if we go to Lamed. Let's see.
Yeah, I should really pull up the curriculum.
Because we jump around a little bit over here. Curriculum.
Yeah, you have it? I don't have
Mem
it.
base. We'll jump to mem base after this. Let's have a quick look at what's mem base.
Okay.
Mem base is that we only this is the what's it called?
Ein
This
mikachin
is the
el
part that
ratzain ha'isha.
dispels the myth.
Consent.
Right. This is the part that that dispels the myth that many unfortunately even leftist Jews, but certainly the leftist non-Jews have this myth about that Jewish marriages are what do you call them, arranged marriages that the wife does not have a choice in. So this simon starts off. We don't betrothed besides for with the consent of the woman. That not just the consent of the woman, that the woman desires it. She wants it. She wants this betrothal, and in front of two witnesses. I guess we technically. I don't think we're gonna have enough time for the whole
so
thing.
much so that Bal Charcha ain't a Kedushin. Doesn't even. It's not even a Kiddushin. It's not like okay. It's gotta be
right. If she didn't do what's it called, you could betroth her however many times you want. And I mean, we saw this already before because a lot of the question. It's interesting that he only brings that now because when he was talking about the wording of Kiddushin, right? Where was that? Back in like the Chofs,
yeah,
in the 20 somethings. We're talking about because one of the elements of the wording is it clear to her that that's what's happening? Meaning, does his words and her acceptance of him with saying those words, does it show her intent that she desires this Kiddushin? Because otherwise it's no good. so him being Mekadosh, or his wording, it has to be clear that she wanted it. We already had back then. I think we have enough time for the Mechaber Amah first Siman.
Yeah.
And then we could and then we'll just title our next one 42 :1, and we'll start again. But we might as well. We have time. Might as well study Torah another 10 minutes at least.
Sounds good. 8 minutes. And Isha, b'fnei beis edim. It's got to be with her consent. It's got to be in front of two edim. Boy, hey, sifim. All right, we're gonna have 5 paragraphs on this. Ein ha'isha miskadeshes el ritzaina. You can't be mekadesh a woman. You can't betroth a woman except with her consent, with her will, more than her consent. But her will, she's got to want it. Mekadesh isha bal karcha and mikadeshes. And if you do it forced, then it doesn't count. Avo ish ansuha acha kiddush. But if a man that who they forced until they got in, what does that mean? Oh, where basically he's forced to be Mekadesh or Bal Karchai, Harezu Mikudeshes. If he was forced to be Mekadesh, it is. Basically, it's all about her will.
Right. Basically, well, I mean, depends. Obviously, if a person didn't intend to be, first of all, he doesn't even have to want to be Mekadesh. He just has to intend to be Mekadesh with his action. But furthermore, right, in a case where he forced himself on her, and now if she desires anyway, he is required to marry her. Not just he's required to marry her. He's never allowed to get divorced from her.
No. So are we talking about? About rape? Are we talking? I thought on Suhu him. They're forcing him.
Meaning
Ad Kiddush.
So this is not even
the guy's a mafia don.
So who forced him?
There's some mafia don. He's like, my daughter likes you and she wants you to marry her. You're marrying my daughter. And he's like, I don't want to. Well, then you're going to walk out of here with 2 bullets in your head.
You're going to do it. And then later
he's like, okay, all right.
I didn't want this marriage.
It's like, I didn't want to get married.
You said how interesting.
And so we're saying,
I thought it was a case where
that's what I thought at first.
Where like he forced himself on her, and therefore we know that he has to get married, and he's never allowed to divorce her.
Right. So that's what I was thinking as first as well. But then on Suhu Achi Kiddush, basically he was forced to be Mekadesher, Bal Korche, against his will, Hare Zu Mikudeshes. It is the mikudeshes. V'yesh oimrim she'ein mikudeshes hilkach ha'evel le'safik. And so because of that, there are those that say it's not, and therefore because there are those that say yes, and there are those that say no, there's a suffix here.
Anyway,
and so you got to be careful.
this whole Judaism thing is a little feminist for my taste, huh?
Yeah, it's a little. What happened to men's rights?
It's all about what she wants.
So Haga Amra Tchila. Okay, so here comes the Rama and says, if she at the outset says, Kacheni, be Mekadesh me, Bezarek Kiddushin L'Seich Chika, and then he throws Kiddushin into her arms, V'amar Allah, and he says to her,
meaning I guess he throws something that's the monetary equivalent of a pruta or whatever it is.
Right, he's like, you want to get engaged? Fine, here's the ring. Right. You happy? In the era, big deha, and she took out her clothes.
He shakes them like
while he's saying,
like shaking.
Yeah, lahashlich mimena hakidushin. Basically said basically to get the money off of her.
Right, get it off of me. Yeah.
And then she says, I didn't mean to get, I didn't mean for us. I didn't mean it. What are you doing throwing this at me? I'm not ready to get engaged. I was just messing around. Mitchila, rak l'schik ba'alma. I didn't mean it when I said that. Rak l'schik ba'alma. I'm just messing around. Afilu hachi, havik mikudeshes. Sorry, Charlie. It counts. So Tshuva Maharam, Sefer Hashem. Me'ein holchin be'inyan Kiddushin. And we do not go after, basically, when it comes to being Mekadesh, umdanus, huchus, and we don't go after proofs. We don't have to look for proofs.
Right, for facts. What's umdanus? Like facts, I think. Facts and proofs.
Yeah. Facts and proofs to establish that she didn't mean it. For the sake of Kiddushin.
Right. So she writes Mekadesh because she said it. She said it first. What you said is we don't know what's in your brain. All we know is what you said, and therefore we're going by that you intended. And we're not. You can't prove it. Oh, the proof is I never liked him. Was sorry. You said marry me, right. And he obliged.
Right.
So that's it. You showed your intent already.
Right. So now, look, if the guy takes a woman's hand with force, meaning that she doesn't want to. And he says, shoves that ring on her. And she doesn't throw it away. She doesn't throw away the Kiddushin. Heavy Mikudeshes. Yeah, maybe it was by force, but you accepted it. You allowed it. You didn't then for sure. Even though it was ba'inus, it wasn't baratzin. She didn't say engage me. She didn't say mekadesh me, and he forced it on her. She said no, but then she accepted. Stam, so even though at the beginning it was by force, he gave it to her without saying anything. Since they were before talking about getting married, so then it still counts. They're married. Yeah. So in a case where they were talking about getting engaged, and then he goes and shoves the ring on her, and she's like, "Whoa, what are you doing? I don't want to get engaged." But then she doesn't take the ring off. She keeps the Kiddushin money. Right. So you're engaged.
By the way, he's giving us two different situations here. Meaning he's saying either if he said Harei at Mikudeshes and forced it on her hand and she didn't throw it away, or if he gave it to her but didn't even say that, but he was talking to her.
But they were talking Bechlal, yeah.
Right.
They were on a shidduch date. Yeah. Okay, so now another case. So Haya Chayev La Mais, if he owes her money. And she tells him, Tanli Mausi, give me my money. Give me my money, punk. Where my money? Kasher his chalitin And when he gives it to her, Amar lo Hariyat Mekudeshes li, he says to her, okay, here's your money, and with this you're betrothed to me. Zarki Hiamais Mida Ein Kiddushin. And she threw the money away. Yeah. She's not engaged. I got to jump. I got another class.
Right, because and this is because of the fact that she said first, give me my money. So obviously she didn't intend to listen. By the way, that's why my wife will not lend me money, because the last time she did, look what happened now. Okay,
exactly.
Good. Shliach.
I got him.